So as you can see from the title, in this video I'm going to be going over tips for quick score calculation. So right here I have two questions that you should ask. Is it a Ron or is it a Tsumo? And then is the hand pinfu? Is it open? Is it chiitoitsu or is it none of those? So that's really easy to just look at. Is it a pinfu hand or is it an open hand? Or is it chiitoitsu or is it a normal hand that's none of those? And then each of those cases corresponds to a specific value of hands. So then you just count the han, and you know which value of hand you're in, and you should be able to tell the score immediately. So if you look at it and it's a ron and it's a pinfu, and then you see 3 han, you know it's 3900, and you can just say that instantly. And you don't have to look at a chart or you don't have to count fu. Now in open hands or closed hands that aren't chiitoitsu or pinfu, you will have to make sure that's not enough fu to go to the next value. But basically, if you know the class of hand, most of the time it won't be enough fu to go to the next value anyway, so you can just instantly say what the score is. So, to help with memorizing all the numbers, something you can do is you just memorize the base value. So like a pinfu ron with nothing, just one han, is 1000, and then it's roughly double every extra han. So then 2000, 4000, and 8000. But there's slight rounding errors. So something that works for me is like I've played enough that I know all the numbers you see. So there's no 4000 ron really. I don't think. I'm pretty sure there isn't. But it's 3900, so like pinfu with 3 han is 3900 instead of 4000. And then pinfu with 4 han total is 7700 instead of 8000. So there's those slight rounding errors, but you can remember the rough value just by doubling the value of one less han. Then dealer value is also roughly 1.5 times the non-dealer value. And again, there's slight rounding errors, but that's something that you can remember as well. And finally, Tsumo values roughly add up to the Ron value, so these are all ways that you can kind of make sure you're in the right area, like you're not messing up too badly if you're newer at calculating score. So I'm going to go over one class. This is Ron wins, and then pinfu or open hands. So if it's pinfu, it'll always be these values. If it's open, it might go up to the next range of values with enough fu. But most of the time, even if it's open, it'll be these values as well. So these are the 30 fu ron values. So if it's 1 han, it's 1000, 2 han is 2000, 3 han is almost 4000, but it's 3900. And then 4 han is almost 8000, but it's 7700. And some rule sets have what's called kyuriage mangan, or like round up to a mangan, so they actually count it as 8000 instead of 7700. Then in parentheses is the dealer values. So the dealer values round at 2 han. So it's 1500, and then instead of 3000 it's 2900, then 5800, and 116. So if you have a hand like this one and it's open, you can look at it and there's not enough fu to go to the next value, so you can see 3 han, it's honitsu, and green dragon, that's 3 han. So it's 3900 or 5800 if the player is dealer. So you can really make it that quick. You just look at 3 han, open, 3900 or 5800. And something I'd recommend starting out is just try to remember one class of hands. Like I think this one is a good one to try to remember first. And then if it's that class of hand, know the value for it. But if it's a different class of hands, maybe you won't know what it is. But it's a good place to start. Now for the next class of hands, if you have a normal hand, so not chiitoitsu, and it's not open, and it's not pinfu, just some other hand, um, then these are the values for it. So these were 30 fu values, like I said. This one is the next up, it's 40 fu. So the hands you tend to see here are like just reach hands that aren't pinfu. So that's the most common thing you'll see. And so if it's one han, it's 1300, and then it's exactly double each time. So 2600, 5200, or a mangan if it's 4 han. And one note here is these open hands will go up to these values if there's enough fu. So if there's enough fu to go up to the next value, then like if it's 3 han and it's open, but it goes up to the next value, it would go to this value and it'd be 5200. Then again, the dealer values are in parentheses and you can see them yourself. So let's say you have this hand and it's closed and maybe it's a reach hand. So reach tan yao and one on ron, so it's going to be 2600 or 3900 if you're a dealer. So again, you can see there's not enough fu to go up to the next value. It only has one triplet and it's on a middle tile. I'll talk a little bit more about fu later, but it's also something you can look up on your own. Finally, the third class of Ronwin hands are chiitoitsu hands, so 7 pairs. And chiitoitsu hands are always 25 fu, and they start at 1600 with 2 han, and then they exactly double as well, so 3200 and 6400. And also the dealer values are exactly 1.5 times the non-dealer value. So 2400, 4800, 9600. And 50 fu hands are going to score the same as 25 fu hands, just it counts as like the same as a 25 fu hand with one extra han. So if you have a 1 han 50 fu hand, it's exactly the same as a 2 han 25 fu hand. And the same is as you go up in han. So again, these are Ron values, and here's an example of a 50 fu hand. Let's say you declared reach and won this on Ron, so that's 2 han 50 fu because this triplet is worth 8, this triplet is worth 4, so that's enough to go up to the next fu value, and it becomes 3200. So those are the key ones that you need to know for Ron. Is it pinfu or is it open? Then it's these 1000, 2000, almost 4000, almost 8000 values. If it's a normal hand that's not pinfu, then it's 13, 26, or 52. And you can also remember the dealer values as well. Finally, if it is chiitoitsu, it's 1600, 3200, or 6400. And I wouldn't focus too much on like hands that go up in fu, but it's something that you do want to know so that you know all the hand values and not just the common ones. So that's all I have for Roland value hands to start out with, and then for Tsumo wins, you can do a similar thing. Now the first category I have here is just pinfu. So you'll note that that's different from the Roland hands because on Roland, pinfu and open hands are generally the same. Open hands might go up in fu though. Now in Sumo, it's just pinfu first. So if you Tsumo and the hand is pinfu, these are the values you're going to see. You can't have one Han because pinfu is a Han and Tsumo is a Han. So that's 2 Han minimum, and it's 400, 700 for a total of 1500. And if you're the dealer, you take only the second value from everyone. So the way you read this is each non-dealer pays the first amount, the dealer pays the second amount, and it adds up to this much. But if you're a dealer, everyone pays this amount, and it adds up to this much. So here you can see the values, and something you'll notice is you'll see a lot of the same numbers like 1300, 2600, 5200. So that's another way to help yourself remember what the values are, because you'll see the same numbers a lot. So pinfu Tsumo is 20 fu, and this is the only way to get 20 fu. And that's why it ends up being separate from open hands. And the note here as well, it's a difference from pinfu Ron because pinfu on Ron is 30 fu, but on Tsumo it's 20 fu. So let's say you have this hand here. Let's say you don't declare a reach, but you get Tsumo and pinfu, and then Tanyao and Sanshoku. I guess that makes 8 Han. So, I mean, not 8 Han. That makes 5 Han. So, it would be a Mangan, and that's not really a good example. But maybe you Tsumo on the 2 instead. It's going to be 400. It's going to be 700, 1300, because it'd be Tanyao, pinfu, and Tsumo. And let's say you declared reach, then it'd be 1326 because it's reach, pinfu, Tanyao, Tsumo. So again, you can classify the hand, it's pinfu, it's Tsumo, and then count the Han, and then immediately know this is how much the hand is worth. Now if it's a normal hand, open or closed, normal, but by that I mean not chiitoitsu. So if it's a normal hand, these are the values you're going to see most often. And again, it can go up in fu, so it can go up to the next values, but these are the ones you're going to see most often, so it's why I'd recommend memorizing first, and that'll cover most of what you see. So these are 30 fu values, and at 1 Han it's 300, 500, then it goes up to 500, 1000, 1000, 2000, 2000, 3900. So again, these are just like the pinfu or open hand rolls, which are 1000, 2000, 39, 7700. So again, you'll see the same numbers popping up over and over, and that can help you memorize them. And I made the same note just to try to help get it in your mind that open hands are different from pinfu hands when you Tsumo, because an open hand Tsumo is always at least 30 fu, but the pinfu Tsumo is only 20 fu, and that's a difference from Ron again. So let's say you Tsumo on this hand, and it's not any fu besides like the red dragon and the pair weight. That's not enough to go up in fu. So it's itsu or straight, which is 2 Han, Tsumo, which is 1 Han, so it's 1000, 2000 because it's 3 Han total. And that's a total of 4,000 points. If you're the dealer, it would be 2,000 from everyone, and that's 6,000 points. And then, if your hand is chiitoitsu, then these are the values you're going to see. And technically you can't get 2 Han because chiitoitsu is 2 Han and Tsumo is 1 Han, so it would start at 800, 1600, and then 1600, 3200, and then a Mangan if you had more Han than that. And again, chiitoitsu is always 25 fu, so Um, these are the 25 fu Tsumo values. And just like in Rowan case, if you have 50 fu, it's exactly the same as the 25 fu values, but plus 1 han. So if you had a hand that was worth 2 han and 50 fu, it would be the same as 3 han and 25 fu, and you could know the value from that. So if you have a 50 fu hand, 50 fu. So 50 fu is actually going up a lot in fu because um, most hands are 30 fu on sumo, and to get up to 50 fu, you need a lot of fu, but these would be the values you get. And I guess I mentioned it here. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but again, it's the same as the 25 fu values, so you don't really have to memorize much for it. 40 fu sumo does happen more often, and it's just 40 fu is the same as the 20 fu sumo values, but plus 1 han. So if you remember those pinfu sumo values, then you'll remember the values for 40 fu sumo as well. So like pinfu sumo with 2 han is 400, 700. So Tsumo on a 40 fu hand with 1 han is 400, 700, and then it roughly doubles from there with each han. So 700, 1300, 1300, 2600, and then a manga. So the hands you're going to see that are worth 40 fu or something like this, where this has a triplet of a terminal, so that's 8 fu, then 2 fu for the hard weight, and then 2 fu for sumo. So that is enough fu to go up to the next value, which is 40 fu. Now if it wasn't enough, then it'd be back down to the 30 fu value, which would be 500, 1000 if it was 2 han. Now I do have some notes for counting fu. All you have to look for are 12 fu. So if you can see it's not 12 fu when you look at it, you don't have to look, you don't have to calculate anymore. Because if it's not 12 fu, it doesn't go up to the next value. And you can use the common values. So on sumo, that would be like these values: 300, 500, or 500, 1000, 1000, 2000, 2000, 3900. So if you can just see it's not 12 fu, then you can immediately say it's the common value that you have memorized, hopefully, or that you probably want to try to memorize when you want to calculate score quickly. Now, for triplets and quads, if you're worried about forgetting the values, a terminal or honor triplet or quad is always double the fu for the same thing on a middle tile. And then close is always double the fu for open. And if you have an open middle tile triplet, that's 2. So if you have a closed middle tile triplet, that's 4. Or if you have an open terminal triplet, that's 4 as well, because it's double. Now if you have a closed terminal triplet, then it's 8. And also, I didn't put it in here, a con is quadruple the fu. So if you have an open con on middle tiles, it's 8 fu. So if it's closed, it becomes 16. Or if it's open on a terminal, it's also 16 because it's double. And then if it's closed on a terminal, it's 32. So you can, um, that can be a way to help just remember all the foo values. Um, Also, drawing your winning tile is 2 foo. Even if your hand is open, when you draw the tile and win, that counts as 2 foo. Then there's also foo based on your weight. So edge weight, middle weight, pair weight is 2 foo. And if you have a dual pair or champon weight, then if you draw that weight and win, then you've drawn a triplet, so it counts as a closed triplet. And if you win on roll, it only counts as an open triplet because you didn't draw the triplet. Now one last note is to watch for hidden foo. So here, let's say you draw the 5 and win. So then this triplet of ones is 8 foo, and you drew the win, so that's 2 foo, so that's 10. So that wouldn't be enough to go, that wouldn't be 12, it wouldn't be the next value of hands. But you can break up this hand as 5, 6, 7, and then you drew a 5 on a middle weight, a 4, 6 weight. And that would be 2 foo as well, so that would be 12 foo, and it would go up in value. So let's say you declared reach and drew this on Tsumo, then it's 2 and 40, and I'm going to put myself on the spot here and say 700, 1300. Okay. I would have felt embarrassed if I was wrong, but anyway. See, so what makes it tricky is it is a two-sided weight. You have this 4, 5, 6 and a 6, 7 two-sided weight. So you would think that it shouldn't count as foo, but when you score the hand, you always score the highest value you can score, and the highest value is to instead put it in the single weight, so in the middle weight. So take out the 5, 6, 7, and you drew the 5 to complete the 4, 6. So that wouldn't work if you drew the 8, because the 8 completes the 6, 7, which is a two-sided weight. And there's no way to break it up where the 8 actually completes a different weight. So it's just on a case like this. But it is something you want to watch for. Now, if this hand was actually pinfu, like you had a run instead of a triplet of ones, then it would be scored as pinfu and you wouldn't get extra fu because pinfu is more value. So this kind of case is really the only one you'll see, like not commonly, but more common than other cases, but this is the one that you would want to watch for like hidden fu. Now just to mention it, the 60 foo values are the same as the 30 foo values, but you add 1 han. So like a 1 han 60 foo hand is the same value as a 2 han 30 foo hand, and that's 500, 1000 on Tsumo. And the same holds true for Ron, so it'd be 2000 on Ron. So again, if you remember the 30 foo values, you'll know the 60 foo values as well. And the note here is hands that have this much foo probably have a con. And then for even higher foo, 80 foo is double the 40 foo values plus a han, or it's the same as the 40 foo values plus a han. 70 foo is different. I didn't write it out here, but it's a different set of values. And even higher foo hands are extremely rare. So 100 is the same as 50 plus a han, and then 90 and 110 have their own values. But those hands are really rare, so even 70 fu isn't very common, so you can get away without memorizing it. I'm just going to do one big recap. So, if you win a hand on Ron, or someone wins a hand on Ron, the first thing you look for is it pinfu or open? If it's pinfu, it's 30 fu. If it's open, it's probably 30 fu. And the value is 1,000, 2,000, 3,900, or 7,700 based on how many han the hand has. So you can look, say, Ron pinfu, and then see the han, and you know the value immediately. If it's not pinfu, it's probably 40 fu. And it can also be an open hand that goes up in fu. So it has 12 fu at least, but not 22 fu. Then the value would be 1,300, 2,600, 5,200, or 8,000. Again, these are usually like reach hands that aren't pinfu. So if someone declares reach and you play in and you look and it's not pinfu, then you can see how many han it is and immediately know this is the value for the hand, as long as it doesn't go up to the next, up to 12 fu and go up to the higher value. Then for chiitoitsu, I think of it as powers of 2, so 16, 32, 64. But those are the chiitoitsu Ron values. Finally, similar values are for non-pinfu hands that go up in fu. So a lot of times these would be reach hands or maybe hands with an open con, something like that. But it would be a hand that's not pinfu and goes up in fu. If it's an open hand, it has to have a lot of fu, so that's why I say like an open con. And if it's a closed hand, it only needs 12 fu. And then that would be a total of 50 fu. So then that means the hand would be the same as the chiitoitsu hand values plus a han. Now for the Tsumo recap, the first thing you look for is just pinfu, because pinfu Tsumo is 20 fu, and it's the only thing that's 20 fu. And then it would be for 2 han, 400, 700, then 713, 1326. Then you have your open hands on Tsumo, or your not pinfu hands on Tsumo, and those would be 30 fu, and these are the values. Then the next, I put 40 fu in here, and 40 fu would be like open or closed hands that have enough fu to go up to the next value, and then these are the values for those hands. And chiitoitsu is 25 fu, and these are the values on Tsumo. So to calculate out really quick, you just know the classifications like pinfu, not pinfu, open, and chiitoitsu. Look if it's Ron or Tsumo. Make sure you know all your yaku so you can tell how many han it is, and make sure you know what the Dora and Uradora are so you know how many han it is, and then as soon as you know the classification and the han, then you know the value of the hand.